Ray Suarez reports the Red Cross story.
It's been a challenging 3 months for one of America's best-known charities, the 120-year-old American Red Cross. In the wake of the terror attacks of September 11th, Americans responded quickly and with astounding generosity. Charities have raised an unprecedented $1.4 billion for victims of September 11th. Nearly half of that money has been raised by the Red Cross, which also collected hundreds of thousands of blood donations. This story of blood and money has brought controversy and scrutiny to the well-regarded $3 billion a year charity. Founded in 1881 by the Civil War nurse Clara Barton, the American Red Cross provides disaster relief to the victims of more than 67,000 disasters annually and has been the largest seller of blood in the nation for the last 50 years. Immediately after the attacks, the Red Cross ramped up for round-the-clock relief efforts.
We honor our heroic relief workers, victims, and their families. Please call 1-800-GIVE-LIFE to donate blood, or 1-800-HELP-NOW to offer financial support.
As the contributions poured in, Red Cross President Bernadine Healy took the unusual step of not putting the money in the agency's general funds, rather in a separate place, the Liberty Fund, which most people assumed would be used solely for September 11th victim relief. On the blood side, it was a case of donations pouring in, but little demand. More than 3,000 died in the attacks, but a relatively small number were injured. Jim McPherson is the executive director of America's Blood Centers, which collects about half the nation's blood supply.
By September 12th, we knew that the victims of the attack were frankly mostly dead, and we're not going to need very much blood. I believe a total of about 600 or 800 units were used for the injured parties. During that first 24 to 48 hours, we doubled and then tripled the blood supply in the country.
Blood has a 42-day shelf life. For those who manage the nation's fragile blood supply, having too much blood can be just as much of a problem as having too little.
Even on the September 12th, the day after the attacks, we called Red Cross and we said, would you join with us with a message to people that the blood supply is adequate, and let's stop the collections right now so we can minimize wastage.
But the Red Cross saw the charitable outpouring as an opportunity to restock its depleted national inventory at a time of great uncertainty. Jerry Squires is Chief Scientific Officer at the Red Cross.
When you consider that we were trying desperately to increase our inventory to a safer level, that we were hearing that September 11th might not be the end, and we had to be worried about the entire United States, we really felt that sort of calling a halt to blood donations was probably not the wisest or the safest thing for us to do.
So the Red Cross continued soliciting and receiving blood.
The American Red Cross is providing life-saving assistance.
Donate money, donate blood, or volunteer.
But we still need your help. So please call 1-800-HELP-NOW to make a...
Meanwhile, as the blood piled up in storage, so did the millions in the Liberty Fund.
Americans' love for America was channeled through our nation's great charities. And as president of this great land, nothing made me more proud.
As Bernadine Healy was accepting praise from President Bush for the Red Cross's efforts, her organization was discovering just how difficult it was to distribute $500 million. By the end of October, the initial praise had turned to criticism of Healy's management of the Liberty Fund and contributed to her surprise resignation, effective December 31st. Red Cross officials then closed the Liberty Fund, which had received pledges of $543 million and spent $147 million on September 11th relief efforts, less than 1/3. They announced they had raised more than enough money for the needs of the victims of September 11th and planned to spend over half the money to build up blood supplies, improve their telecommunications, and prepare for possible future terrorist attacks. At a contentious congressional hearing, Healy defended the use of the money.
The American Red Cross, to my knowledge, has never described its work as limited only to those people who were lost on 9/11 and their families in New York and Pennsylvania and the Pentagon. We worked with them vigorously. Everything that we thought we could do, everything that was within our mission, we did.
Victims of September 11th and members of Congress responded heatedly to Healy, and New York Attorney General Eliot Spitzer threatened legal action.
And we have 2 victims here at this table who haven't received the money they need. This is anathema to what the American public expects. When people were writing their checks for $100, $200, or $10,000 and sending them in response to the PSAs that the Red Cross was running, they believed victims were going to get that money.
What's at issue here is that a special fund was established for these families.
No, it was established.
It was specially funded for this event, for September 11th. And we're also being told parenthetically, by the way, we're going to give 2/3 of it away to other important Red Cross needs.
The Brookings Institution's Paul Light, who studies American charities, said the Red Cross had to face some difficult choices.
They were in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. I mean, the Red Cross did not have the administrative infrastructure to handle this money. They have been unable to raise the dollars over the years to update their administrative infrastructure. But Americans don't want to pay for the heat and light. They don't want to pay for the telecommunications or the freezers to store the blood. They want the blood to go directly to the victims. They want their dollars to make it to the victims. They want somebody else to pay for the heat and the light and the electricity and the infrastructure.
In early November, the Red Cross reversed itself and announced all Liberty funds would go to September 11th victims and families. Red Cross interim president Harold Decker.
I want to say now that America has spoken loudly and clearly, and that America wants our Liberty relief efforts directed solely at the people affected by the September 11th tragedies. We deeply regret that our activities over the past 8 weeks have not been as sharply focused as America wants.
Meanwhile, blood donated after September 11th was reaching the end of its 42-day shelf life. According to news reports, directors at several Red Cross blood centers were discarding as many as 1 out of every 5 donations. Jim McPherson said that has been his concern since September 11th.
We knew from day one that when there was this outpouring, how do we manage this precious resource? How do we make sure that it doesn't get wasted?
The Red Cross's top blood official, Jerry Squires, said the waste was minimal.
Very little blood was actually discarded.
When there's a spike in supply that's not met by a spike in demand, how do you not throw out a lot of blood? Or at least an amount that exceeds the normal throw-out level?
Sure. Think of it this way. It's sort of like filling a sink. You got the drain open and you have the faucet open. And what happened was that normally what we have is the sink is filled this much, 2 to 3 days worth. What we have is not blood that we've thrown out, but a higher level in the sink. And now we can manage that inflow and outflow, but there's more residual in that sink.
Many regular donors have continued to trust the Red Cross, showing up every 2 months to give blood.
You know, they're not going to open the window and dump it out. Those people don't administer it unless somebody needs it. And if somebody needs it, I want it to be there.
Shoring up the faith of people who gave blood or money has been the #1 challenge for the Red Cross after Bernadine Healy's exit, according to Michael Farley, the Vice President for Development.
The premium for us is to maintain the trust and the stewardship, the deliverance of the stewardship of dollars that we have received. This is all about trust, and if it weren't for the trust, then the American Red Cross would not be able to be there every day for disasters that occur around the country.
But Paul Light at Brookings said that fundamental trust between the Red Cross and the public has been strained.
This particular incident is going to affect and probably depress giving for some time to come. The next time there's a crisis, a national disaster in which the Red Cross asks for donations, or another nonprofit for that matter asks for donations, Americans are going to think a little bit about this crisis, and it's going to take some time for this to heal.
The Red Cross will announce its plans for spending the remaining $275 million in the Liberty Fund in January.